This is the Afterbrews, of course, sponsored in part by Trek CBD.
Right, I'm Gavin Vincent, and this is Ryan Smelts. You're watching the Afterbrews, sponsored by Trek CBD and proudly produced by Charles Morgan. Join us next week for the next episode. And tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with
Sara Wilder, the owner of Perspective Counseling.
This is super relaxed.
Yeah. See, I told you it's the therapist vibe.
What?
It's the therapist vibe.
Yes, it is.
I just come in. It's like
so. The biggest question I have is, what impact do you think that social media is playing on people's self-esteem, like how they're viewing themselves, and even addiction to that point?
Well, I think it's become the addiction. Let me just go ahead and put that.
Yeah, fair enough.
TikTok is some serious stuff.
I hadn't even downloaded the app just for that exact reason. I keep hearing that.
Walk into it prepared and mentally disciplined, because I have been working for 3 years on my mental discipline and it still got me. So it is easy to scroll. There's so many people in this world. So kind of bringing it back around to your question, how I talk about social media. I mean, it's been so helpful. I think it is a form of communication that we have in the, in 2020 for sure. It's definitely helped keep people in and connected with each other. However, for my, young adults and adolescents right now, I don't even know where to start. Borderline toxic sometimes, but can be really helpful, again, if you know and you have direction and use it intentionally. But it's definitely been a supporter of mental health and anxiety for sure. I think we're not really supposed to know this much about each other sometimes. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who share a lot of details about themselves, and that is great for them. I'm just not that type of person. I think you can share and help people without giving them everything, because then it's also, you leave with nothing if you give them everything. So, but I think it also just I use the Kardashians. I don't know if I can openly use people's names, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just work here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in this world who have a lot of good things happen to them. And then there's a lot of people who don't have those same good things. And naturally, when we watch someone else have that, it's natural to have a reaction about that you either want it, or you're happy for them, or you're jealous, or whatever. That right there, if people don't know how to direct that reaction, it just feeds into whatever else they've experienced in life, whether it just triggers the comparison game.
Yeah. I think that's the most dangerous component in my head. Whenever I think about social media, and it just that's the dangerous component, because you keep scrolling through and it's like a highlight reel of a person's life. You don't see all the bad stuff or the not so good stuff that happened, but you always see the positive stuff.
Honestly, this past week, I've been building a small what's it called? You have followers and stuff. Community. Let's go with community.
Okay, let's do that.
Building a very small community at first. This is the last few months has really been when I've put my stuff out there on social media, and just this last week, with people seeing just bits and pieces of my Instagram story, I've actually gotten a couple people reach out and I was like, oh, you should talk about these things more often, because how are you just having a hole in your ceiling and not freaking out right now? And I was like, well, there's part of me that wants to, but I also have worked really hard to try to just stay in the moment with it. I have insurance, the HOA pays for this, that stuff. And I was like, if it's not here right now, not dealing with that, it's very difficult to do, but I've had to work hard on it. And people want to see that. It's encouraging for them to there's hope, and there is hope. It does take a lot of work, but with, and help. And sometimes we have to understand different perspectives to be able to get to that point, though, because we just don't have the ability to see things from different views sometimes.
So I guess the other thing I'm curious about is it seems like there's like all these different schools of thoughts. Like, you have like a lot of people talking about being a stoic and stoicism and mindfulness and like digital minimalism and like a lot of these like theories that are, hey, let's kind of get rid of all this stuff and get back to simplicity. Then you have the people that are very much so about balance. Like, okay, you can have all these things and kind of balance it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of where do you fall in that spectrum, or what do you think is a healthy dose there?
Well, I think I do the thing that my professors in college told us not to do, which is be an eclectic therapist. But it complicates things, I think, because I can get too detailed on some things and too technical for whether it's people or even for myself sometimes. Like I don't have a very analytical viewpoint a lot of the times. So when it comes to balance, that can sometimes trigger a lot of control, and when we control, we don't balance.
Yeah.
So I like the thought of balance, and you can get everything that you want as long as you have what you need. But all those other schools of thought I like to dabble in too, just because to me, their perspective. Mm-hmm. It's like, I use Zodiac as an example all the time. I think it's fun. I think it's oddly and creepily on point half the time. It's not the most rooted in science and evidence. So that's where, it's not a capital T truth, right? Yeah. So I try to remember that, but I also try to find peace through that perspective. Yeah. Because sometimes, Mars is in line with some other planet I can't think of right now, and that's just the answer.
Yeah. I mean, if you want something deeply rooted in science, it's just Scientology.
Right.
Why'd you roll your eyes, right?
Hashtag I roll on point.
I don't think I can do it any harder.
Just for all those listeners out there, hearing with your
I'm going to plug it. If you haven't seen the docuseries by Leah Remini, I think that's her name.
Yeah. Or Remini or something. I don't know.
I strongly encourage it. It was good. Yeah. I like her. I like the docuseries.
Is that the one on Netflix? Or is
I feel like it was Hulu.
I don't watch much TV. Okay. But I have heard of that.
But it was good. It was good. Specifically deals with Scientology.
Oh.
It was good.
Yeah. To look into that.
Yeah.
Did a little bit deeper. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take all the questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, for real though. Like I'm huge on, conspiracy theories, and that's why he was bringing up flat Earth. That and the business I am in, along with MLMs and probably many others, have their own scheme, conspiracy attached to it. And I'll intentionally look it up. It doesn't faze me one bit. I'll intentionally look it up just to watch it, just because I find that stuff interesting. So I'm curious if there's any attached to counseling.
Well, I don't think I have an answer for that right now. Give me another example. Yeah. Maybe it will spark something.
So
are you asking like
one of the main ones attached to any and every business seems to be the common terminology pyramid scheme. The problem with that is pyramid is a shape and scheme literally means plan. So when applied to any business or organization, you will find a pyramid scheme. I'll give you an example. The Army. You go in as a private, and there's 1,000 of them, and above them are a bunch of team leaders, but there's fewer team leaders, and a bunch above them are squad leaders. You get it.
Yeah.
So as you go up, there's fewer leaders. Those guys at the top make more money than the guys at the bottom. The guys at the bottom have to work their way to get to the top, and not everybody gets there.
Pyramid. Okay. That's not necessarily a pyramid scheme. I mean, a pyramid scheme would be like if you were paying money to kind of be in it, and they were
that's an MLM.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Multi-level marketing is a legitimate business structure. Tupperware, Mary Kay, Avon.
Yeah, I'll not comment on that. But
so that's why I say that pyramid scheme is a very common misconception. But when it comes to many organizations and businesses, people not only say that, but there are entire YouTube channels dedicated to attempting to destroy those businesses and those structures. So
right, but
I was just curious if counseling was like, the only thing I could think of possibly, because I have never looked into it before, is like, it's voodoo or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure you have naysayers. I'm just curious.
A bunch, yeah.
We?
I'm just curious what they say, and basically, I guess how it's not true.
So, God, when you put it like that, I have a lot I could talk about. So I'm really just trying to narrow it down. So I'll go with these are all new thoughts too, so I hope they're not going to be too wordy because I haven't really
It'll probably be all right.
So there is a concept called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of like, I think it's psychology, like 101, if you take that intro class. So when you said pyramid, that's what popped literally in my head, because that's the only kind of pyramid associated with mental health. So essentially what it is, it's this old research guy, in the past basically identified these, in order to build, we need a foundation. So you have your basic needs for life. If you don't have those, you cannot move up into the next level of the pyramid. So that literally crossed my head. And I do. So at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And I think this is, may not be fully understood in just kind of layman's terms. And I don't mean that negatively. It's just because that is a concept that I have to, literally teach people about in session. But I think a lot of people don't think that being happy is always attainable. Or you have to be happy all the time in order to be happy. And I don't think that's true. Self-actualization is about knowing that you have what you need, you've grown on what you need into what you want, and you've been able to be intentional about finding the things that make you happy and knowing that when you're not happy, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
A lot of things. And then the secondary part of that is what not to trust in mental health is your initial thought, is your initial you have your gut reaction and go with your gut. But when you have anxiety, depression, don't listen to your first thought, because it's usually self-deprecating and distorted in some way based off of something that you've experienced. So I think that has been, if I'm getting kind of focused, thought distortions, they're one of my favorite things to talk about. But that can be something that leads people to think that mental health is not worth it, that it's just going to take care of itself. And that happiness is contentment. And yeah, sometimes it is. I hate to say that, but it's not all the time.
That's I love that. I love that thought, because, for me personally, to get to the top of that pyramid is my journey in life. And, I heard this quote, I can't remember who said it. It went I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am.
My head
There's
just
your comparison
exploded.
right there.
Yeah. I think that's what people kind of get caught up in, is how they perceive themselves to be seen through another person's eyes. And, that's the trick of, not being happy, because the comparative syndrome and how you're being perceived through somebody else's eyes.
And we've come full circle back to Gary Vaynerchuk. You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Gary V.
You said not being happy, and that's the key.
Yeah,
just being happy.
Just made me think of that. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think that you think that I am.
Can you write that down? Because my memory is not too great these days.
Yeah, I don't think we have to. It's recorded.
Oh, send me the link, please.
So
ASAP.
there's that.
That was powerful.
So I was going to back up a little bit. I feel like we got pretty deep just now.
Sorry.
But
it kind of happens.
Sorry.
Basically, and Charles solved the Rubik's Cube. I was worried there for a minute.
Did you really?
Oh my!
Look at that!
The hell?
Hey guys, look what I did off camera.
Without my hands.
Without my hands. Isn't that awesome?
While not moving. I've never been able to do that.
I've never.
I used to peel the stickers off
to
try to make myself
So I guess
feel
I had
better.
too much time because in Iraq I learned how to solve these.
It looks
I
just
was
like
not
the Earth.
fast.
Look, Ryan, it looks just like the Earth.
No, because this is a cube. There's only 3 possibilities for the shape of the Earth, and that is globe, flat, and donut. I like the donut one just because I like donuts.
That makes me kind of hungry, actually.
No cubes.
Is that Business and Brews going to be Business and Donuts? Is that a thing?
Oh, we could change it. It's our show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We could
Just
change
maybe
it.
do like a segment.
Yeah.
You don't have to like change.
Business and
Do a
Donuts.
DBA
No, that would
part-time thing.
be an additional
Well, here's the
show.
thing.
I guess.
You're from. So you're not from here. Is it Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts? For
Dunkin' Donuts all day.
you? Dunkin' Donuts all day.
I like
Ryan?
Shipley's. Shipley's.
You just would be different. Chuck.
Oh, I'm from New York.
Oh, okay. Dunkin' Donuts. DD.
Because there's no Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, there's no Krispy Kreme.
Well, New York-
He said, so I'm from New York.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be either like that's like either a bagel shop or Starbucks? If it's New York, or do they have Dunkin'? Do they have a lot of Dunkin'?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dunkin's
Dunkin's New York?
primarily a
Okay.
northern thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we have them here, but yeah, usually people
Dunkin'
from
was like down the street from my house where Starbucks was.
yeah,
I'm probably not going to do that.
yeah, not doing that at all.
No, it's a long drive.
No.
Yeah.
Not like Shipley's. I was in
Even
Texas
longer
for the
walk.
last 3.5 years of my Army career, and Shipley Donuts was there. It was good. To me, it was better than Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme just because it's not as mainstream. I feel the donuts were bigger. They were cheaper.
Yeah.
It was
I'm a
higher
Krispy
quality.
Kreme guy. I don't know, especially when the hot light is on.
Yeah, but
Yeah, speaking of food addictions, I think that might be.
oh,
There's that
yo,
segment.
we're about to get into
There
it. Bro.
we go.
No, we're about to get into it. You guys ain't seen shit. So I was out with this guy. No, legit. Like, I've never seen this before in my life. So I'm going to be super vague here, but we met up, okay? And where we met was like a gas station with the Dunkin' Donuts in it.
Yeah.
And this guy texts me and says, hey, I'm waiting on you guys. I got you donuts. Are you going to make me eat them? So I was like, all right, sure, whatever. No, but we'll be right there. So we were running a little late. We go over there to meet him, and he had a box from Dunkin' Donuts. So it was 2 donuts. And he gave them to me and the person I was working with. I was like, all right, free donut. No big deal. Just a donut. Dunkin' Donuts, there's 1,000 of those, within a short radius. Like,
Right.
not a huge issue. So we're working, whatever. Person I was working with had to drop him off, do some paperwork. So me and this guy go out. We go hit a couple more businesses. We walk into one, Jelly Donuts. And I do B2B sales. So I walk in and I'm like, hey, I roll through my spiel, looking for this person, whatever. Not there. All right, cool. Catch you later. Bye. Person I'm looking for, person that makes the decision ain't there. So I'm done. I'm leaving. He's like, hold up a second. Yo, not only does he get more, but to add insult to injury, the shop that we were in was a single one. It wasn't a Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme. It was just mom and pop store. And so you had to buy X number of dollars in order to use your credit card or whatever. Not super uncommon. But we left, so he's got like this bag of donuts, and I'm like, what? Because at first I was like, oh, he's got a donut problem, right? but think about it. Think about it.
He
didn't eat the donuts from the first shop, the first purchase. He probably had some before then, but he had 2 donuts. He gave them to us.
Yeah.
To top things off, the purchase he just made, not only did he share them with us, but I ended up taking 1 or 2 home to Toya.
Yeah.
So he does have a donut problem. but it's not a consumption issue.
Yeah, it's a giving issue. He likes to give out donuts. It's better to give than to receive.
Okay, so that brings us back to perspective in that I didn't think about that because I thought it was a purchasing issue.
No.
Anytime there are donuts around, he has to buy them.
No, but think about it. It could be like the same concept of like on Christmas. Like, doesn't it feel a lot better to actually give a gift than actually receive a gift? It could be that kind of concept.
So this man, man
is having Christmas.
not
with
just
donuts.
Yes. It's not that he has a consumption or purchasing problem when it comes to donuts, but he has to give them away. But I found it crazy, like just insane, how he could not leave the store without purchasing donuts. And that was the second time that day. And then I wanted to test it out from some more the next day. I didn't get to. I wanted to, but I probably will this week. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
Follow up.
Yes. Follow up. Yes. Let's do it.
Friday.
Yes.
When I have him listen to this episode, because I'm probably going to text him or call him up, probably going to get in trouble, but that's why I didn't mention any names, because it's not important
who it is. It's important, the story.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think that's
so he has giving problems, so he's friendly.
Yeah, that is, yeah. He's friendly.
About
that's
donuts
a good
and
problem to have.
addictions. Yeah.
So, with that, sorry to move away from you, but we have a guest. Hey, Sarah.
Right.
Slip away from you for a sec. Yep.
Are you seeing a spike in a certain type of addiction, since you've been in the business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it really depends on where you are in the country, honestly. But I would say, the opioid addiction and opioid epidemic, sorry. Too many pandemic words in my head. It's just out of control.
Is it?
Where I'm from, I'm from the Northeast. So actually, when I go back to visit there, it is the first time where I actually I saw TV commercials having like a 800 number about if you have a problem, you need help. We don't get that down here because I don't think opiates are, at least in Raleigh, they're a problem. But you go to Wilmington or the Outer Banks and the commercials start coming. And it's just it's out of control for real. And I think they're starting the process of, trying to correct it. But I don't think it's a legal issue. Yeah. It's not about like monies and lawsuits at this point. It's about getting people the help they need. And, but I see addiction as more of that behavioral process, and whether it's opiates, whether it's weed, whether it's relationships, whether it's and we can become addicted to anything. Yeah. So which is why I speak so generally about it, which I know can be kind of confusing, but it's because if you kind of take my perspective and you put it in context of like a thing, it still works. It becomes the addiction to that thing, which is why food addiction, not that food addiction just sprouted up when I talked about it, but there are a lot of systems in place that address that. But food is one of those, I will say food and sex addiction are actually the highest, one of the highest numbers in addictions that most people don't consider because they're not your standard substance addiction, stuff like that.
Yeah. They can be dangerous all the same, They can be very dangerous all the same.
One of them was
asking. Yeah. So.
Are they your primary?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, they're not my primary. I can go a little bit more into depth.
What's the primary that you normally see?
Well, right now, just because of where I am, I think I get a lot of general mental health and, depression, anxiety, which I go into depth if I see the opportunity. But I will say, that's so hard to say. I have a little bit of everything. I have some marijuana clients, people who are trying to get away from that consequential behavior of smoking all the time and not being able to use it in moderation. I have alcohol. I have a sexual behaviors client. I have a lot of codependency, which I consider more of that kind of addictive, like it's like a spice. It's going to be in the chili. It's codependency. So I see that in everyone. We all have that. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
The other question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What's the handle of the first person?
It doesn't have one.
No, thank you. No handle.
No, it was anonymous. So.
Anonymous. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Usually
thanks,
that
anonymous.
question
I didn't know that
is
was a
actually,
thing.
sex
That's
addiction
from
is very
Twitch?
stigmatized.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it is.
Super
because
excited about this.
I don't think a lot of people think that you can be addicted to it, but it's an addiction.
Of
It
which
is.
one?
Sex addiction.
Sex addiction.
No.
It's very stigmatized. Very.
I think I feel, well, I could be wrong. I feel like that applies to a lot of things. Like, people think alcohol and drugs out the gate, but, they've, God forbid, they've even made shows about things, sex addiction. You've got hoarders. You've got, there's a food one. I can't remember, but one of those I saw, the person had a problem with like eating cornstarch.
Well, that's usually
It was an extreme.
more of like, a compulsive behavior.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'd have to go more into the clinical aspect of whether or not I would say it's definitely a compulsive behavior to relieve some type of stress, but I'm not sure there's a specific cornstarch addiction.
I just thought it was interesting because it's like I said, many times we think of the basics.
Yeah.
But then you are familiar with as a whole.
It's expansive very quickly.
The addictive behaviors of human beings. That's interesting.
Yeah. The other question.
Alexa.
Can we hear you through the audio or?
No,
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Alexa.
so
18.
you ask it,
Yeah.
and then I'll repeat the question.
You good? Okay.
Okay.
She was asking for detailed.
Okay.
Alexa
They
18.
don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You want to repeat it?
Yeah, Alexa 18 on YouTube. Alexa 18 on YouTube wants you to go more in depth on what a codependency problem is. Like, what is that? Unpack that for us.
Okay. So how I talk about it, right? I wouldn't say it's not necessarily a codependency addiction. I would say you commonly see like codependency become an addiction, right? So I see codependency on kind of a spectrum. It's a balance. We all are going to, you totally just messed up the Rubik's Cube. We all have to have access to codependency. That's what allows us to be intimate with each other, right? But if we don't have boundaries or limits around what emotional investment we put in people, then it can become very imbalanced very quickly. And it really just takes us outside of ourselves. So codependency is the crux of pretty much any addiction. So when we become too dependent on another person to be our coping skill, to be the not the peace, but like, because people can provide us peace, but like if we are dependent on something outside of ourselves, can be codependency. So I hope that made sense. It's a lot of detail to go in, which is why, therapy can't just be done. And that's in a fairly general, non-specific context to anybody else's experience with life. And then you have all these different experiences that fold into what codependency can look like for everyone, or for that person, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for answering that, Sarah. We appreciate it.
No problem.
So, do you ever get clients that come in like, hey, I'm broken, fix me in one session?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I will say,
That's me. And not even one session. It's like, have this problem where I think thoughts and I say shit. What do I do?
go to therapy.
Yo, for real though.
And go again. And then again. I get that. I think it's probably one of those jokes that's not really a joke, because it's intimidating to come in, to get to that level of vulnerability, to pass control over to a therapist in this example. But it's a lot. I don't downplay that. If you end up in front of me, that is a huge step, because I would say even for myself, it's been very difficult to even put myself in that position. But I tell people, I try not to give advice. It's not my life. But the only piece of advice that I give is to trust yourself with building a rapport with your therapist. You're trusting someone to guide you through some of the stuff that you don't want anything to do with anymore. You don't have to go through all of it. There are other ways to deal with things that you don't want to just do traditional talk therapy with. What was the original question again?
Oh, sorry.
Short-term memory issues.
I think that was pretty much it. Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah. You want to? Oh, boom, 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 boom.
That was bad. That was.
It'll be all right.
Oh.
You want to end the Afterbrews here? You want to end here?
Yeah, she asked what the original question was.
Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, we answered that question. I asked her a question, and you answered it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you ever get people like that come in and want to be fixed in one session?
Oh yeah. So my advice is I don't give advice, but I do. The only piece of advice I give is that rapport with your therapist. You have to be able to trust that they know what they're doing. And I'd say don't initially trust them. Test them out. Not every therapist is for everyone. I'm like, my style is very different than I can't say most other people. I don't really know all the therapists, but I would say I'm very more direct. I'm from the Northeast, so I don't cuss, and my brother's in the military, so I don't have a very clean vocabulary. Yeah.
All right, I'm Gavin Vincent, and this is
Ryan Smelts. You're watching the Afterbrews, sponsored by Trek CBD and proudly produced by Charles Morgan. Join us next week for the next episode. And tonight we had the pleasure of speaking with
Sara Wilder, the owner of Perspective Counseling.